Sam, thanks so much for taking out the time today to jump on this podcast and speak with my audience. So, dude, I appreciate it. I know not everybody may know who you are. I know a lot about you. I followed you for probably a little over a year now, but if you can give someone, a little bit of a background on what you got going on, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate you having me on. So, yeah, I am a pretty normal dude, which I think is a good thing. I used to kind of shy away from that. I don't have like a crazy like childhood story or rags to riches type of story, but I grew up in the Midwest in the lower middle class. Went to high school, went to college, got a job out of school, all that fun stuff, and was quote unquote in the real world for a couple of years and realized I wanted a little bit more. So I started to invest in real estate on the side, buy a few rentals, do a few flips. And then about 3-4 years later, I quit my job and went all in on real estate in 2018, which was a pretty good time to do that. And since then, things have been going pretty well. Flash forward to today, and obviously we can fill in the gaps. But as we're sitting today, I own about $46 million worth of real estate that I've been able to buy without using any of my own money. I own a house buying company here in St. Louis where we buy about 250 to 300 houses a year. And then I also have a real estate education brand on social media, as well as a community that people pay me to be a part of. So, I got kind of the three-prong approach right now. Got my fix and flips, got my, got my rentals, and then I got my social media. So that's kind of where we sit right now.
Nice, man. Nice. Well, let's go back to the real world initially. So you worked in the real world. So I would assume corporate job or something like that when you got out of college.
Yeah, so just a sales job, knowing nothing super exciting. I was selling Caterpillar construction equipment, which I knew nothing about. I don't know why they hired me, but they did. So I did that from 2011 until 2018 when I quit. But I didn't start investing in real estate until probably 2014-ish.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. And so what outside of, just kind of maybe being bored at work got you into real estate outside of maybe stock investing or something else?
Yeah, so I think I kind of Rich Dad Poor Dad was a huge part of it. I know that's a cliche answer, but it kind of just opened my eyes a little bit. But I wanted more. I always kind of had that competitive entrepreneurial itch. Grew up playing competitive sports, and that challenge, the teamwork, the winning, the losing, all that becomes a part of who you are if you're playing competitive sports from 7, 8 years old till you're 18. So 10 years, almost half your life or more than half your life that you can remember. So when you go to college, and if you're not playing sport in college, that kind of competitive goes away. And I feel like I scratched that competitive itch by starting a painting company. Me and my buddy Lucas started a painting company where we painted decks and fences, interior, exteriors of homes. So we kind of worked for ourselves, as college kids can do. It wasn't a huge company, but we enjoyed ourselves, made a decent amount of money, and had fun doing it. So then when I got into the real world, I didn't have either of those things. I was working for somebody else, and then I wasn't playing any sport. So I wouldn't say I was bored, but I just felt like I wanted to do more and wanted to start something on the side. And the thing that made most sense to me was real estate. Very low barrier of entry. You can borrow money, you can wholesale, you can do a lot of different things as opposed to starting some company or investing in something passive. I wanted to actively see what I could do with some extra spare time.
Yeah, for sure. I did the same. Well, so what on you buying rental properties, buying properties, and getting into real estate got you to the point that said, like, was it immediate? Like, hey, I'm going to do this and I'm going to get out of my W-2 or sales job? Or was it something that built up in the sense of like, after a year, you're like, okay, hey, I think I can actually get out of my current employment and go after real estate full time?
Yeah, it definitely took a while. It wasn't something we wanted to do right away. So when I say we, it's me and Lucas, my high school and college, painting side business buddy. We started this and do all this together, but it wasn't anything that I wanted to do right away. At first, our goal was to buy one rental house a year for 10 years. And then after 10 years, start to pay off the rental properties and just retire a few minutes early or a few years earlier. That was our initial goal. And then we started to do that at scale a little bit. I think we bought, maybe 6 or 7 the first year. So we blew that out of the water, and we're kind of looking ahead at what we wanted to do. And Lucas actually wanted to quit his job. So the goal was to buy enough rentals so we could passively take the cash flow from those rentals and replace Lucas's engineering job. And that is not a very smart or wise or efficient way to do that. You can't really do much with rental cash flow, especially if you're not using any of your own money. I don't think it's wise, and it's irresponsible, I think, to take all of your excess cash flow and, live off of it. It's a dangerous way to live. So pretty quickly we realized that that was going to take us years and years and years. And then we started to get into wholesaling and flipping and getting a little bit more of that active income on the side. I think the final year before we quit our jobs, 2017, we flipped about 20 houses. So we were doing a pretty good scale while having full-time jobs. So definitely the goal is not to grow into a 48-person company like we have now and have, like I said, flip 300 houses a year and do all the things we're doing. That wasn't the initial goal, but I think just getting our feet wet and seeing the possibilities, seeing the fun, the challenges of everything got us hooked. So we decided to continue to pursue it and eventually go all in.
What got you from doing 1 to doing 20? So like what got you off the stepping and the step stool of, hey, we're gonna do 1, and then because some people get stuck at that and then they never do it 1 again, until they're, mid-50s and they say, hey, I gotta get back into investing because I gotta retire. So what got you past that 1 and done?
I think probably ignorance and stupidity, maybe. Just doing all that on the side. It was just one of those things. Our first actual fix and flip was a burn house. Somebody that had a house that burnt and it was down, had a new roof on it. But other than that, it was literally down to the studs, the floors. No plumbing, no electric. Like what are we doing? Like that's so stupid looking back at it, right? As our very first flip. Like we had to like get electric installed and permits and all this stuff on an initial flip. So it was just we just went all in. We're kind of just go all in, figure it out as we go, and that's probably a better way to learn than sitting on the sideline for a year researching. So we just went all in that, and then the fact that Lucas is an engineer, so that engineer, that organizational, that operational type mindset really allows you to scale. It's tough to scale when you have limited spare time and you're kind of more like my mind, like looking around, squirreling it all the time, looking for things to do or new avenues to go down and not being super organized. So having that, person with that organizational operational mindset really allows you to, all right, we have a core group of contractors for each of these trades. We are working on raising private lenders. We have 2 or 3 private lenders. We have core contractors. We can handle another one. Let's plug another one in. And as we kind of went down the line, and we kept some as rentals and we ended up flipping a few as well. But I think just a combination of just, going for it and being dumb and then having that organization behind it and just, jump in before we really knew it was at the bottom.
Yeah, for sure. How much do you think it was having a partner and having that partner by your side in the trenches with you?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, I don't think I can overstate the importance of the right partner, in my opinion. One of those things where it's 1 plus 1 can equal 10 or 20 or 50. It doesn't have to equal 2 if it's the right other one. Somebody that has complementary skill sets to yours. If somebody's a little more organization focused and somebody's a little more sales focused. Like I always kind of would do the negotiations on the houses at first until we had a team. I would
Mhm.
help, raise the money and, talk to the private lenders and deal with like the people aspect of it. Not that Lucas couldn't do that, but that was a little more my strength. And Lucas was a little more like managing the rehabs, managing the finances, managing the money after I pick it up from a private lender, put in our account. So the fact that we had, I could have done that. He could have done what I was doing. I could have done what he was doing. But the fact that we were better sticking in our own lanes and doing that just allowed us to grow much faster, make it a lot more fun, and allow us to, do even more with the right type of people. So again, I don't know, going into a partnership is good for everybody in every situation, but for a lot of people I think it's probably a good idea if they pick the right person with the right core values, because a lot of people say don't mix friends and family and business. Luke and I have been best friends since middle school. We have 48 team members and I think 15 of them we knew as growing up as friends or family. So we kind of bucked that trend of not mixing family and friends and business, and we love it. So we were friends for a long time, so might as well bring our friends along the way with us.
For sure, 100%. I think that it's very valuable to have. It's tough to find a partner that's going to be like that, right? And especially one that's from middle school. So finding a partner, maybe accountability partner, and then they grow into an actual business partner or someone that's on the side that maybe is doing something different. They're, day trading or something like that. And they're providing you at least value like, hey, this is how I scaled, gives you the ability to say, I can keep going because this person's going with me or they went to where where I want to go. So I think that that's very beneficial, and it gets you past your one and done deal, or like, two and done. Those are the things that get you to the next level. For you guys went from 20 to now 300 plus homes a year flipping. Tell me the back end of that. How are you able to scale that to 48 people that are on your team? And this will probably be the bulk of our conversation, because it's fascinating to grow that much that quickly. Granted, it was a different market and now we've changed a little bit, so I'll have some questions on that, but tell me that process.
Yeah, and then just kind of set the baseline of it. We just say our flipping company. When we flip, it could be wholesaling, it could be fix and flipping. So we did 312 houses last year. I think we're probably the market's contracted a little bit, but St. Louis, it's still strong. You're into market trends and things like that. Just real quickly, we track everything, as far as the St. Louis market goes, and year over year from September of 2022 to September of 2023, it was like 8.2% appreciation. So that's pretty good, substantial, especially for a market like St. Louis. So we've been pretty strong here. So the market's contracted a little bit. So we'll probably end at like 250 or 260 this year. And this year, I would say we'll probably rehab maybe 50 or 60. So we might be a clean 200 wholesales and then 50 or 60 rehab. So we have a combination of the both, because it's a lot easier to scale wholesaling. We close on them if we have to, but it's a lot easier to scale. We have 6 full-time sales guys. A lot easier to scale wholesaling if you're not taking everything down, just the risk and just the manpower that takes. So yeah, we kind of slowly, I wouldn't say slowly, looking back, it wasn't slow. It felt kind of slow at the time. So in 2018, Luke's and I both quit our jobs. We had probably, like I said, done 20 maybe flips, actual rehabs that year that were like fix and flips that turned into rentals or that we sold. We probably wholesaled another 10. So we had done maybe 30 that year on the side. And we partnered with another local company here in St. Louis that had been around for a while that was maybe doing like 100 a year. So
Yeah.
we combined forces and then, combined teams and did all that and kind of were able to jumpstart a little bit quicker. And then I think that next year we did like 160 and then 200 and then kind of slowly, not slowly, but, added 20 or 30 a year as we were growing from 2018 till last year. So it was definitely a process, and it was, dealing with people and growing. And, like right now we have a sales manager, 6 full-time sales guys going out and buying houses, a full-time dispositions guy. We have a full-time marketing guy. We have a full team contract to close, and that company's got about 22, 23 team members. That company that is the flipping company that's going to do about 250. So it was one of those things where it wasn't like a magic pill. All of a sudden we woke up and we're like, let's double our volume. We just grew a little bit every single year, saw where the holes were and filled those holes, doubled down what was working, and just more houses seemed to come in the door.
What do you, if you had to make the decision on flipping, doesn't matter about scale or wholesaling, which would you rather do if I give you the choice right now?
I would right now with the market driven is more than anything, but right now flipping's been a little bit better for us. Like I said, the market's pretty strong in St. Louis. You can't scale as much, and you took that aspect out of it. But flipping, it seems to be working a little bit better. The margins are a little bit higher. There's more risk, but man, things are flying off the shelf. It's a good product. So I like that I don't have to live by one of those. I like to be flexible and have diversification. But if I had to pick, probably flipping right now, depending what the market's doing.
Gotcha. Okay. So, growing that, like, it's not an over or, a flip of a switch, and ultimately you guys are doing 250, 300, 312 a year, but you're gradually scaling. So what are some, off the top of your head, some mistakes you made that you can remember, like, hey, we should have done this, or we should have, put this into place? Anything that comes off the top of your head that you can say, hey, this could add someone value that's listening to this on scaling a business?
Yeah, I think a lot would be tracking what you're doing, and what you focus on and what you track usually improves. We made a lot of business decisions based on feel or just initial top line data. The minute we started really analyzing data, we hired a full-time business analyst. His job is to take all of our data, put it in easily readable charts, and keep track of everything so we can make actual business decisions based on actual data. So not that everybody has to hire a business analyst right away, but tracking, the more you track, the more trends you see, the better decisions you can make. I would say, I don't know, Peter, 80% of the decisions we made were probably right just off of feel, but 20% probably weren't, So we probably set ourselves back not knowing the data was not showing. And we struggled for a few months for this or that and didn't know why. Probably because we made decisions based off of feel. And most of the time that's probably right, but not all the time. And when you're running a business and you have employees and people's livelihood relies on that, you should do your best to not make, willy-nilly decisions. So I think tracking as much data as you can, even though that takes discipline and effort, is huge for someone wanting to scale a business. And then making sure to keep culture in mind. We have a really, really good culture, and that's been a top focus for us. But as you grow, that can go to the wayside pretty quickly. And something that I don't think we've done a ton of. We've done a little bit of this, but I've seen a lot of companies do this. When you're like growing a company with your buddies, and you're going to make your bookkeeper, you're going to make him CFO because it sounds cool, right? Or you're going to make you got two sales guys, you're going to make one of them director of sales and another VP of sales. Like, we didn't do that, but a lot of people have these inflated titles that are okay, but then they do tend to lead to, is there more pay expectation? How can you back that down when somebody that's actually a CFO comes into play, when you need that person that actually has a CPA degree over your buddy that got a B plus in accounting 202, so he's your controller kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I think just having the organizational chart, looking at it through the vein of, we're going to grow, it's going to be big, we need a C-suite, we need all that, but it needs to be the right people in the right spot, I think is something that I think we've done a little bit of, but I've seen a lot of people kind of have to step back, giving these people these lofty titles because it's a small company and who cares.
What are some key metrics that you're looking at for like that analyst that came in? Like, if I can't go hire an analyst because I'm still doing 25, 30 deals, what should I be looking for if I'm in a business like you are and I want to scale, but I don't have the capital to actually pour into someone that's going to come in and analyze my business and give me, all these data points? What should I be looking for?
Yeah, I think a big thing that the biggest thing, and to not try to sound too simplified, but the biggest thing is making sure you're tracking that net income and expenses. Like, well, I'll give a few more details, but the biggest thing is, what is your expenses and what is your net income? What goes in your top line and what trickles out the bottom to your bottom line? Like, how much is that and what is that? So that's a huge thing to keep a track of. Is everybody knows what their bottom line is, right? But tracking from your top line to your bottom line and seeing where the expenses are, where's the leaky bucket, how much money you're spending on marketing. And then another big thing is tracking kind of like your churn of your inventory. I think is a big part of it. If you're holding on the properties for 6 months, you're holding on to that's just your churn, is 6-month churn. So you get 2 churns a year. That's fine. But what if you can get more efficient and cut things down, and you can do a churn every 4 months? That means you get a whole nother churn because you're doing 3 rather than 2. It can literally mean 33% more profit to your bottom line. So just figuring out what like those metrics are that move the needle as much as possible and tracking them. We do that a lot is churn, and then obviously the expenses that go from your top line to your bottom line, and just seeing if it makes sense to, hey, if I add this person into this role and pick up this expense, no matter what the role is, what will my ROI be on that role? Is it simply taking headaches off of me? There's ROI there for sure. Or is it actually putting more money in the actual pipeline of your financial statement by bringing somebody in? And, usually with small businesses, you're going to have headaches. So it's got to be a just strictly financial decision. Then eventually you can, look at it as, hey, I don't know the exact ROI on our business analyst. I know that on a lot of the other roles, but not on a role like that. So I think just getting to a comfortability point is huge once you get a little bit better of a feel for everything.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree with you on all those things. What about growing so fast or growing faster than maybe someone else that's, one by one each year? How do you keep culture alive and well throughout the business, especially when you have a different market like we just talked about? It's changed. People are probably coming in with their head down a little bit like, hey, we're not doing as much as we did last year, but we're still crushing it comparatively to our competitor right next door. How do you keep that culture alive?
Yeah, culture is huge for us, and I know everybody says that, and it's probably true a lot of the time. But we're really big on that. We want to make sure we have an open, drama-free culture. We have our core values that we talk about. We have them splattered throughout the building. We have a office building that we bought a couple years ago and remodeled, so we're all together. And we have our core values throughout the building. We give core value awards away. We remind people all the time in our weekly staff meetings, our all company-wide meetings, of what core values look like and they don't look like. But the biggest thing we do is we actually live by them. We hire through our core values and we fire through our core values. Unfortunately, that has to happen every once in a while. So the fact that somebody sees another employee not living by the core values, they see them reprimanded, they see them, kind of get slapped around a little bit, not actually, but they see them get, reprimanded to a degree.
Yeah.
Yeah, we punch them in the face if they don't follow our core values. No,
Come
so
on.
if they see that and then they see that person get let go, they're like, oh shit, they do take this serious, right? So I think the biggest thing you do is you can have them on the wall, you can talk about them in meetings. Everybody, or most people do that. But the fact that we actually hire and fire through the lens of our core values and other people see that and they know that we hold people accountable via those values and we live by those values from the top down, it is the most important thing to us. We haven't had somebody voluntarily leave in 3 years, which is pretty cool. We've had people leave, but it wasn't on their terms, and that doesn't happen very often. But that, and then the hiring process of, we have a lengthy hiring process. We have a lot of people that want to work for us. So quickly, we do a resume resume review. Our team does our kind of our HR, synergy manager, we call her. But resume review, phone interview, in-person interview. After the in-person interview, we send them a personality disc assessment. We review that. Then we'll have them back for a second in-person interview. And then we'll go meet them for lunch or coffee or dinner to get a feel for are they an a-hole to the waiter or waitress? How do they react in public with people? And then we give the offer. So it's quite a gauntlet to get in the doors. But when you do, you're here. We're confident that you're the right fit, the cultural fit, and we hire for that. Well, we can always teach you a skill as long as the skill and personality assessment says you're good at this or that. We'll teach you the specific skills for our business, but it's got to be a core value fit in. That is a huge reason why we hire our friends and family, because we know they got our back. We know they're loyal. We know they fit our core values, and then we'll teach them a skill.
Speaking of leadership, dude, it seems like you and Lucas are good leaders. Give me the background on, did you take a course? Did you just learn this over time? Just brute strength? Did you learn this at, selling tractors? Or how'd you learn the actual traits of being a good, solid leader?
Yeah, I think it's something you always are working on. I know we can always get better. We definitely do a pretty good job, I think, but we're always working on it and improving it. So growing up, I was always kind of a leader. Lucas and Luke didn't play football, but I was captain of the football team. There's a leadership quality to that when you're playing it. It's high school, so who really gives a crap? But still, there's a leadership quality, especially when you're that young and that's all that's your world. It's not like you're running a company, but you, in your little mind, you are. And then we were both co-captains of the basketball team. So we were in high school. So we were, had a little bit of leadership there. And then as we went into our jobs, I started out as a sales guy, not even knowing what equipment really was. And a few years later, I was sales manager. So I was 28 years old right before I quit my job, about a year and a half before I quit, sales manager, managing 13 veteran, 40, 50-year-old guys. So understanding that and understanding being a leader of those type of people and the different personalities and all that took. So I got a crash course in it there. Mm-hmm. And then we're just kind of naturally have always, some people are just a little bit more natural leaders than others. Everybody has it in them, I believe, to a certain degree. So we kind of had the natural in us a little bit. We kind of cultivated growing up, but we work on it daily. We read books as a leadership team. So Lucas and I are the two owners, and then each of our companies, our three companies, has a COO that runs the whole show. Everybody reports to them, they report to us. So it's pretty structured at this point. And we have a meeting we call our board of directors meeting every Monday morning. Us and the leaders of each company all meet, and we have a structured meeting that we have. But we read books. We do a book report or a book club kind of thing. So we read leadership books. We read mindset books. We're reading The One Thing by Gary Keller right now. We'll read a couple chapters. Then we have a 10-minute discussion, midway through the meeting before we get into our issues list. And we're talking about, hey, this is mine. This is how, whatever the book's talking about, we have a meeting with that. So we're trying to grow ourselves as leaders, and we're also looking to, cultivate leaders within the company. So those are huge things. And then the last thing I would say to help us be leaders is we're involved in two expensive but very worth it masterminds that we're around a lot of other really high quality leaders that we can learn from them and see what they're doing and what they're doing that's working. So long-winded answer, but leadership and culture are very, very important to us, and they're going to continue to need to be as we grow and scale. So anyways, that's kind of my long-winded answer to that one.
No, that's no, really good. That's what I want to hear. I want, I don't want the meat and the potatoes. I want to, really the down deep of what you're doing to be successful in your business. And so if you can go back to your sales job, being there for 7 years, do you throw it all away? Would you rather go straight into what you're doing now? Or do you think that that gave you the ability, the knack, and the stamina to be where you're at today? Some of it, obviously not all of it, but some of it.
Yeah, I think so. I think you rounded it out pretty well. I would say some of it for sure. It gave me some confidence in myself and my abilities because I mean, literally when I got hired right out of college, it was 2011. I didn't know what like equipment was. I didn't grow up around equipment. They hired me because I was living with my parents at the time, just graduating college in the county that they needed a rep in. So I was selling equipment. I made like started in May because you graduated in May, but I made like 17 grand that first year. And then figuring out how to sell, how to relate to people. I don't have a degree in sales. My degree was in marketing. So I figured that out. So I think it did really help me gain some confidence because then I became, within a couple of years, got promoted a few times, one of the top sales guys, and then became sales manager of a decent sized company. My region that I was sales manager over did like, I think we did like over 100 million in sales my last year that before I quit. So I think it gave me some confidence and it allowed me to understand dealing with people and leading people and bigger financial statements. And, the culture was decent there and what that looked like and any dealing with a lot of that. So I wouldn't change that. I think I'm a better leader because of that. But of course, the earlier that I would have got started, the better, right? We did a lot for 10, 15 hours a week on the side. As soon as we were spending 60 hours a week on it full time, things really blew up. So I could have probably had more real estate. Maybe not, but I wouldn't have traded a ton of it for it. I learned a lot. I got a good base, made some money, and was able to feel like I had a little bit of savings before I was able to quit my job and go all in. So I enjoyed the time. I enjoy what I'm doing now much more, but I wouldn't trade much of it. No.
So the marketing degree that you got, do you think that that has helped you amass, the mass amount of followers on Instagram? Do you think that has a minute or a big? And the reason I say this is because I feel like, college has been watered down so much for the last, 15, 20, 30 years that it's not as a big of an impact unless you're going to be an attorney, a doctor. And I know a lot of people have said that, but do you think that that marketing degree helped you to get to the place you are today on marketing and on sales? I mean, marketing more.
Probably not a ton. It was like a marketing management degree, and it was a lot of like business type classes and things. So, probably not a lot. And I think I kind of agree with your sentiment. To me, I think everybody should invest in real estate. It's the number one wealth creation tool ever. 90% of millionaires are created through it for a reason. So I think everybody should invest in real estate, and I think they should have a full-time job while they're starting to invest in real estate. It makes you more bankable. It allows you some flexibility. It allows you to not financially be only on yourself and only on your new business. So just to answer a question that you didn't ask, I think that if you need a college degree to get a good job, go get a college degree for sure. But if you can get a good job and you don't need a college degree to do that, then I don't think it's 100% necessary like it probably used to be in the past. So if your goal is financial freedom, the vehicle should be real estate. If that is your goal, that's not everybody's goal, and that's fine. But if your goal is financial freedom, real estate should be the vehicle, and you should have a good job while you're driving that vehicle at first. So if college will help you get a good job, go to college. If you can get a good job without it, then don't. So wrap your answer and actually answer it. I don't think it's had a ton to do with it. Just social media wasn't really a thing when I got started. Facebook was all it was, and now I have 2.7 million followers across all social media platforms. But it's just mainly just through grinding and creating content and being somewhat of a psychopathic lunatic to just continue to do it over and over again. At first, when nobody was watching any videos, so I think it's a combination.
Okay. So what do you think on, 46 million? Dave Ramsey calls you out. What do you think on this? Let's talk about this for a minute because I followed Dave Ramsey for a long time. There's parts that I do like of him and parts that I don't in the sense of his theories and also programs. So I would like to hear your 2 cents on that. I would like to talk about this 46 mil and then also, that being said, having a lot of debt and everything else. I know that's kind of your shtick. So talk to me about all that.
Yeah, so you're right. Dave called me out on a show, which was interesting and cool and fun all at the same time. He was calling me out about my $25 million in debt. He basically was just saying I was a liar, like I was lying about the fact that I was in $25 million worth of debt because he just couldn't comprehend that. So, in general, to answer your question about Dave, I don't have an issue with Dave. I think that was great that he did that. His brand is 150 million times bigger than mine. So he was punching down and never punch down, always punch up. So he allowed me to punch up and not look like I was like grasping at his coattails. So that was nice of him to do that. He gave me some good airtime and allowed me to respond. He didn't allow me to, I did, but I could respond without, everybody bashes Dave Ramsey
Yeah.
about the debt. So I could actually do it because he called me out. So I don't have an issue with him or his tactics. I think he's got a great brand. I do think he does teach you how to not be poor. Like that's kind of his, like he kind of a little bit of a fear driven approach. Like if you want to not be poor, follow Dave. I tell people that to this day, but if you want to create wealth, you're not going to do that through Dave's plan. So if your goal is like that scarcity mindset to not be poor, he's a great person to follow. But if you want like more out of life and you want to enjoy life, make money, create wealth, then he's not your way to do it. I just saw him do a tweet today that if you're in debt, you should not see the inside of a restaurant unless you're working there. It's like, so you're saying you can't even go out to eat until everything is paid off. Like that means you're not going to enjoy life, going out to eat, having drinks with friends, enjoying yourself, like spending a little bit of money. So I don't agree with that approach. I do think he's gotten a little bit more old maney over the past couple of years where he's kind of stuck in his ways. It's good for his brand to be like all in on no debt. There's no gray area. It's no debt or death is kind of his mantra, or not his mantra, but it's kind of hidden mantra. So I think it's bad for his brand to have any flexibility in that, and he knows that. So that's why he goes super hard into it. So there's that. My kind of thoughts on Dave. I didn't know if you had any other thoughts on Dave or that before we got into the debt piece.
No, I think Dave, and I've said this before on a podcast, but I think Dave is step one to get financially free. Step one, step two is then follow Robert Kiyosaki. I think it's like step one, Dave. Get consumer debt and stuff like that. Loans, everything else paid off. I mean, you could do that obviously with any type of active income and or buying rentals and putting that whatever cash flow that you have above and beyond what you're using for expenses against that. But I think he has some good principles. I don't think that they should apply to everybody. And I also think that a lot of people that do follow it, like you said, it's a little bit of, scarcity tactic. I think that, after you get to a place that you feel comfortable, hey, we paid this off, everything else, now I can move forward and do this, and this active and passive income.
I like it. All right. I wanted to get that out there because when I get talking about debt and leverage, I go on tangents and I get a little bit passionate. So I wanted to give you your 2 cents before I rambled for 10 minutes. No, I won't ramble for 10 minutes. I'm just
No,
kidding.
yeah, you're good. No, dude, I think that I think you have a lot of these people that not Dave, but I mean even him in his younger years did a lot of that stuff, and that's why he's doesn't want to get into debt, and that's why he built the company he built after he filed for bankruptcy. But he built a 2, 3, 400, $500 million company doing it. That being said, I think that you like yourself can be very successful on the other end, being able to be financially free and then also building a company like you have and being strategic. And also, like you said earlier, you were like, dude, make sure your income and also your expenses are looked at each and every month and each and every week. So you're not in this situation. Granted, his was a little bit different, but you're not in this situation where, all of a sudden it's out of whack.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I agree 100%. I've know the most successful people I know are able to compartmentalize certain things that somebody says. They can take one thing that somebody says and take something from somebody else. They don't have to like drink the Kool-Aid of one person. So I think that's a big part of it. I think there's great things that Dave says, but this kind of made me think of, and I hadn't really thought about this in the last couple of weeks, but I saw somebody say that Dave Ramsey might become the first billionaire with his real estate that he owns through cash that is in zero debt. Like he might be the first billionaire with no debt. And that and I think he would brag on that, but that proves my point. There are hundreds and there are thousands of billionaires in the world through debt, but there's one that
Yeah.
has done it without debt. So do you want to do what everybody else, 99.99% of billionaires or multimillionaires do, or do you want to do what the one person with one of the biggest brands in the country did? So if your goal is wealth and financial freedom, you're going to have to do, or you should do, what 99.9% of people did to create that wealth. So we'll get into the debt aspect of it now. So everybody that anybody's listening that knows, besides Dave Ramsey, anybody you know that's successful to a certain degree, whether that means, a multimillionaire or a millionaire or, even more than that, has done it through leveraging debt, like Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, whoever else, Musk, all those people leverage debt to create their wealth. It's just what you need to do. Nobody has enough money to create wealth from their money. If they did, then they're already wealthy. Like normal people aren't going to create wealth unless they figure out how to properly and responsibly leverage debt. Like Musk bought X, right? Or Twitter. He didn't pay cash for it. He took a little bit of his Tesla stock. He leveraged some of it. Then he borrowed money from Bank of America, I believe Wells, and then like 15 or 20 angel investors that invested. He understands that if he leverages other people's money, he can grow and scale quicker. So when I said responsibly and properly leverage debt, as long as you're borrowing money to buy an asset that produces cash, then you can take the cash that asset produces and pay off who you borrowed the money from. Like I'm a perfect example. I am in $25 million worth of debt, but that debt allows me to own $46 million worth of real estate. If I was not in $25 million worth of debt, I would not own $46 million worth of real estate. That's $21 million of equity that I would not have if I was not in debt. And that debt cost me 130 grand a month, but it owns asset that's bringing $315,000 a month. So as long as you're responsibly and properly doing it and slowly scaling, it is just the way that wealth is created. It's every company that anybody's ever heard of besides Dave Ramsey Incorporated has gotten to their point by responsibly and properly leveraging debt to buy assets. Last point, and then we can dig in a little more. Apple, look at their books. Every time they release their quarterly statements, they are usually sitting on about $200 billion in cash.
Mm-hmm.
They have hundreds of billions of dollars in loans because they understand having cash and then also having loans allows you to be flexible and scale and grow faster than paying everything off and having no debt. So it's just the opposite of what we're told, the opposite of what Dave says. But if you want to create wealth relatively quickly, you're going to have to get comfortable with the the idea of properly leveraging it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a clip that I actually just saw it the other day, of Jay Leno interviewing Bezos, and he was like, "Hey, each time, this was a long time ago, but he's like, each time I see a headline, you guys are losing money."
Mm-hmm.
And Bezos laughs about it. He's like, "Yeah, well, we're basically paying for the future of what we're building." So they were, heavily in debt, and obviously they're, the biggest company in the world now, but they've been able to do that off leverage, like you just talked about.
Yeah. So as long as you're like, and I agree, if you're not going into debt to buy your third car that you can't afford, yes, that's dumb. So I think you mentioned earlier the consumer debt. Yeah, consumer debt is bad, but if you want to actually, get ahead and start to, build assets that create wealth for you, you're going to have to learn how to, get comfortable with debt because wealth. If that's ever, and I just assume everybody's goal is wealth and financial freedom. I know that's
Yeah.
not the case. So that's just how my lens is. So I understand that that's not somebody's goal, but assuming that's your goal, you're just going to have to understand that in order to create wealth, you need assets. And assets are usually either a business or real estate. There's other forms, but in general, a business and real estate are the main asset types that create wealth. As long as you're getting into debt to buy one of those things and you're allowing equity to grow, that's where wealth comes from. Wealth comes from equity. Bezos's his wealth is through his equity in Amazon. My wealth at a much smaller scale is through my equity in my companies, but mainly my equity in real estate. So I'm not smart enough to start Amazon or Apple or one of those companies. So normal everyday people like me can get to a certain degree of wealth and financial freedom by real estate. Everybody knows houses. Even if you're not handy, you can understand or hire out how to do and rehab houses. And everybody needs a house to live in at some point, whether they're buying it or they're renting it. People need houses. So let's take something that's you can wrap our arms around a little bit easier, real estate, a house, and let's understand that there's unlimited money waiting to lend on houses because the whole U.S. and hence world economy is ran on the United States real estate industry. That's why they say the U.S. real estate industry gets sneezes, the whole world gets a cold kind of thing. So let's take this thing that everybody needs, that billionaires and hedge funds are dumping money into the single family real estate market, and let's get a little piece of that ourselves and use debt to do that. And over time, that property goes up in value. Over time, the mortgage gets paid down by the tenant. You get tax-free cash flow because of depreciation. And you can do this one time, 10 times, 1,000 times. There's no limit to how you can do it. But it is easier than trying to start the next tech startup company. It's something with a low barrier of entry that we all can get into it. It's like what is it, like the class separator, like you can jump up a class, middle class to upper class, or lower class to middle to
Yeah.
upper. For real estate, it's the fastest way to do it.
That caste system. Yeah. No, that's a perfect explanation on, how to get to, the next level and why, like how you should do it and why you should do it. So, dude, I'm a first, let's say I'm just getting into real estate. I'm going to do, I want to try to do my next 2 to 5 deals in the next year and a half. What are you telling me? The 3 steps.
All right. So the number one step is get a base level of knowledge. So you don't need to become an expert, but you need to know enough to ask the right questions. You need to know enough to get a comfort level with taking action, because you're not going to take action if you don't know the difference between wholesaling and flipping, or you're not going to get into wholesaling if you don't know the difference between a double close and an assignment. So you just have to get a base level of knowledge by listening to podcasts like this. I have a podcast, The Faster Freedom Show. There's a ton of other incredible podcasts and social media stuff out there. So utilize technology to just get a base level of knowledge. I'm talking spend, 3 to 4 hours a week on your downtime listening and getting a base level of knowledge. Step 1. Step 2 would be you have to get involved in your local community. You cannot do this on your own. Don't be naive. Don't be dumb. Don't be prideful. You need to lean on other people in your community. We have our local meetup here in St. Louis that starts in an hour and 15 minutes. And we have 250 people come here to my office every single month. There's 50 wholesalers, there's 30 contractors, there's real estate agents, there's banks, there's hard money lenders, like everybody you need to meet to be successful in real estate. Now you're going to make your own connections, but they're here. Like if you get involved in our community in St. Louis and you exert yourself in 2 or 3 of our local meetups, you come, 2 or 3 months in a row, you'll have 30 connections that you can use for the next 10 years. So you have to get involved in your local community and lean on other people. So you said 3 steps. So step 1, get a base level of knowledge so that you're dangerous enough to know what to ask and what not to ask. And you can at least understand conversations that other people are having as you're networking. Number 2 is you have to get involved in your local community and, lean on other people. And then number 3 would be, I would suggest getting some type of paying for some type of mastermind or mentorship. I spend about $100,000 a year on being around other successful people. And I don't know one successful person, not one. There's a lot of variations, and there's a lot of, people that are kind of the exception to certain rules, but every single successful person I know has 2 things in common. 1, they wish they started earlier, and 2, they pay to be around other successful people, whether it be a life coach, whether it be a mastermind, a mentorship, a community, whatever it is. Get over your pride, get over your ego, and pay to follow somebody else's grooved path. It can be after you've done a couple flips in wholesale, so it's coming out of your business account. You don't have to, eat breadcrumbs for the next 3 months to afford a mentor. I'm not saying you have to do that. It can be after you've done a few deals. But if you really want to get the ball rolling, get involved in some type of community, probably paid, because it's a pay-to-play industry like most industries are. So knowledge, community, and then get some type of coach, and you will be well on your way to being successful, because very few people are willing to do all 3 of those things.
Yeah, 100%, dude. I agree. Cannot agree more. Community, get that baseline, and then also paid mentorship or networking groups, masterminds. Those things really help people propel to 2, 3, 4 levels ahead from where they would ever be if they didn't have that. So okay, so last couple of questions. A good book that you can recommend that you've read in the last couple of years that you applied to your business?
All right, I have to do it. I'll give 2, but Own Your Freedom. I just launched a book a couple weeks ago. So Own Your Freedom is a book that I wrote. So I would say everybody do that. Got to give a little plug, might as well.
Yeah.
But it's $5, so buy that. But also a good book that I would recommend. We're reading it right now, and it's The One Thing by Gary Keller. It's really powerful. It talks about willpower, and it talks about discipline, and it talks about how people focus on too many things and never get anything done. If you can have the discipline to figure out how to focus on one thing, everything else will fall into place. So there's a ton of books that I would recommend. I'm a big reader, but The One Thing by Gary Keller, along with, of course, my book, but The One Thing by Gary Keller, for sure, buy that one. And if you got an extra $5, buy mine.
Nice, nice. All right, I'll plug that at the intro, outro, and then also another thing. Like, what are you guys using online resource and or app that's helping you be more efficient and work better in your business?
Yeah, so I thought about this when you mentioned earlier, and I mean, we use a few apps here and there that are applicable just to us, but something simple that everybody can use that I think will move the needle as they scale and grow and help them communicate. It's going to sound simple, but I'll explain how we use it. It is Google Apps and Google Docs. So we use Google Docs and Google Sheets mainly. So we use the Google Sheets. I can see them on my screen right now. Every single one of our meetings have a Google Sheet with everybody that attends that meeting has access to that specific sheet. Everybody has specific to-dos that they put down on that sheet throughout the week, and then we review during these meetings. So it just allows you to be on your phone, on your computer, pull up the Google Sheets app, fill out what you need to fill out, track financials, you can track so many different things on Google Sheets, and it goes with you. The app's already built into your phone via the Google Sheets app as well as on your computer, and it just allows us to communicate and collaborate on the weekends. If you're on vacation, you can fill out your 4 or 5 different things for that week so that everybody can see what you're supposed to be a track of. If it's our marketing meeting for our flipping company, our marketing manager's going out of town. He's out of town right now, but we had our meeting today. He filled out the 3 or 4 things that we needed to make the decision while he wasn't there, so we could see what he was could track of and make decisions based on that. So super simple, but you can customize it however you want, give access to specific people, and it's really powerful, simple tool that allows you to be able to work on the fly, on the go, and all be on the same page.
Nice, nice. Okay, and then where can people find out more about you and connect with you?
Whatever social media you're on, I'm probably on there. The best one to connect with me would be Instagram, though. That's the best one. It's my favorite. It has the best messenger. I can respond to you via the messenger there, but also I can put content out and do stories, and you can see my day-to-day life with my dogs and my family on stories. But then you can learn from my content on there, and then you can connect with me via the messenger. So I would say Instagram for sure, at Sam Faster Freedom, or just look up Sam Prim. And last thing on that is, anybody that has a decent amount of followers, there's a ton of scam accounts. So make sure if you're looking me up on whatever platform, make sure it's the one with the check mark and the biggest amount of followers. I'm never going to write you and try to steal your crypto or try to get you to invest in me. I'm never going to try to take your money on social media ever. I will never ask you for your money. So make sure it's the one with the biggest followings and the blue check mark, so you don't get scammed, because people get scammed on a weekly basis. It's crazy.
All the time. Yeah, all the time. Well, cool, Sam. I appreciate you jumping on here and giving us a lot of information back into your business and how you grew it to be so successful today. So thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Peter. Thank you.